Good afternoon, Las Vegas, and listeners all across the world. Thank you so much for joining me on Live Unleashed. I'm your host, Kevin Lepine. We have a lot of great things to talk about today. Of course, we will be joined at the bottom of the hour with my co-host, Will. I just want to take a couple of minutes, like we do at the start of every show, and just talk about something that you can do to help you move forward in your dreams and your goals. And one of those things that I've always believed, and that I've seen out of every successful person, is to be yourself and not to try to be a clone of somebody else. One of the biggest failings in just about any business is when you try to duplicate exactly what somebody else is doing. You have your own personality, you have your own approach, you have your own ways of doing things. Now, it's all right to look at somebody's model of success, but then you want to look at, what do you offer into your industry? What can you do that makes you unique and makes you stand out? When you try to be a clone of something else, especially if you try to clone something that's already established, you're always going to look second rate. It's always a very, very bad idea to allow people to compare you to an institution that's been there. If you can find ways to make yourself unique, to make yourself stand out, to make yourself different than the institution that's been there, that's what's going to attract people to you. When you have any success in any field, you'll find out that there's part of your personality that's led you to accomplish that kind of success. And a lot of people, when they start their own businesses, when they start to try and live their own dreams, instead of looking at what makes them unique, they try to look at what makes them the same as everyone else. And when you try to duplicate, you lose. And people bring up the example that, well, Burger King copies McDonald's, but not really. Each of them have their own innovations. Each of them have different ways of doing business. Each of them have different ways of marketing. And they market to their own strengths, not to the other side's weaknesses. When you can find things about you that stand out, that are unique, that make you different, that allows you to open up to other things. We're going to take a very, very short 2-minute break. When we get back, our guest this week, somebody I'm very, very excited to talk to. We have Anthony Cools in the studio. We'll be back in 2 minutes.
Monday Mayhem is back at Gene Woods Racing Experience Go-Kart Track. The stakes are higher than ever, and the winner takes all if you've got what it takes. The winner will get to race a real Thunder Roadster at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway in an actual race. So be there every Monday. First race starts at 7. Come early to register. We are located at 121 East Sunset Road at the Sports Center, across from McCarran Airport. For more information, call us at 702-270-8100. That's 702-270-8100. You can visit us on Facebook, or you can go to our website at racingexperiencelv.com. Once you race here, you won't go anywhere else. Monday Mayhem is back.
Hey, it's Roxy from the 702 Rock Show, right here at VegasAllNetRadio.com. Listen to my show every Friday, 4 to 5 p.m. to hear about local artists, musicians, fashion designers, and more right here in Las Vegas. So tune in every Friday, 4 to 5 p.m. to hear me, Michelle Roxy Davis, right here at VANR on the 702 Rock Show.
Hello, Las Vegas from Hypnosis Unleashed. All Las Vegas locals get half off every night at the show, Tuesday through Sunday, 8 p.m. Come and join us for Las Vegas's wildest hypnosis show. Watch your friends get turned into rock stars, watch them do the craziest things, or come and be hypnotized yourself. This show has won all the awards here in Las Vegas, and we want to show you why. Come join us every Tuesday through Sunday night. VegasHypnosisShow.com for more details. That's VegasHypnosisShow.com. Welcome back to Live Unleashed. I'm your host, Kevin Lepine, and joining us in the studio is Anthony Cools.
Hello, hello.
Anthony, thank you so much for coming out. Thanks for joining us today.
Anything for a friend.
Now, you are at the Paris Hotel.
Yes.
5 nights a week.
5 nights a week.
And you also just took something away from me. which I think I kind of yoinked from you.
Oh, yes, I
so,
did, yes.
Congratulations on Best of Vegas.
Thank you very much, sir. Cheers.
Yes. Cheers.
Sociable. And the crowd goes wild.
That was, and it's a very, very well-earned award for you. How long have you been here in town?
I've been here for 10 years, and it's pretty funny because I've been harping the Review Journal for the first 8 years to say, I can't be put into a category. There was no hypnosis category. There was nothing for the first 8 years that I was here. And, they have best slot club theme, and all these really just broad categories, but nothing for, at that time in 2003, there was probably 10 hip shows here.
There was a time when it was really popular, and we're going to go back to the past, but I just want to focus on this. So you've got the Best of Vegas.
Yes.
Anthony Cool's Day was
May 7th.
Very cool.
Yes.
No pun intended.
Yes.
So let's see. That's 2 things you've gotten from me now. But all right. So let's look at this. 9 years being here in Las Vegas, and that doesn't happen by accident.
Well, there's a lot of hard work involved, that's for sure.
I mean, just in the almost 2 years that I've been doing the show here on my own, I've watched, I'd say 24 shows open and close easily.
Easily, yeah. If you go back even another year, probably 100 shows closed in that, in 09, 10. I mean, there were shows opening and closing like my underwear drawer.
Yeah, and it flies so quickly. Now, you've been at the Paris. Mm-hmm. I believe you were at the Excalibur for a little while.
I was at the Excalibur for 8 months, right in the transition period, and I was at the Stardust when I came down here.
Okay.
Yeah, but I've been to Paris for 9 years. That's a long time.
Now, how many years in Vegas altogether?
10.
So 10 years in Vegas, 9 years just at the Paris, and we're going to talk a lot about that relationship, but let's step back.
Okay.
When did you first decide, hey, this hypnosis stuff sounds like fun?
Oh, I think I was about 12 years old when I saw the great Peter Ravine coming through Canada and everybody talking about his show nonstop. And I've been a class clown my whole life, probably just like you, and you realize, that's something I could do because I thought I'd be a rock star. I learned how to play some instruments and things. I thought I'd be a rock star, but apparently it takes more than talent these days to do that. So led into a career of DJing and then into club management, and I realized that was not my thing to do, but I still did it for 8 years to make the mortgage payment.
What kind of clubs? And now, first of all, this was up in Canada, so
yes.
Not only were you managing clubs, you were freezing to death.
Exactly. I was DJing the hottest nightclubs. There was one called Denny Andrews that was there for many, many years. It was there open 7 nights a week, and if you didn't get in by 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you didn't get in. Simple as that.
And I think I just made Canada sound like one town. So where in Canada?
You realize actually that Canada is actually bigger than the U.S., right?
Yes, it is.
And it's on top.
Mm-hmm.
So if this is prison, you'd be our bitch. That's just how it is.
We have Alaska there to shank you real quickly.
There you go.
Yeah,
absolutely. Calgary, Alberta, Canada, which is pretty much 1,500 mile strip north.
So wrestling fan as well then? Because I know Calgary is huge for that.
Calgary was huge for that,
yes.
but I never got into it.
Okay.
It's funny because I come from a family of 4 boys, and none of us got into any sports at all. Not
really?
even hockey, nothing at all. I was too busy having fun, DJing, and then after the DJing, I hung up my headphones in 91, retired number 1, which was great. And then I got into club management, and the whole time I was there, I'd be studying hypnosis. This is pre-internet days, right? So I had to do the old-fashioned way, where I actually pick up a book and read,
and try and make sense. Because I still have books, and I've been very, very lucky. People have given me a lot of books. Katrina took most of mine with her when the hurricane came through New Orleans.
Katrina took away my room in Mississippi.
Yep.
Yeah,
she did.
Absolutely. 4 years I was there. Yeah.
I had the second level of my condo complex flooded. I had a first level condo.
Wow.
But we've all gotten everything back. I mean, and you're still down in Mississippi once
or twice a year.
Yep.
Yeah.
But so you're in Canada. You're learning from books.
Mm-hmm.
What made you make that jump and go, okay, I'm going to do my first show?
I got in a fight with the owner of the hotel. It was pretty funny. Yeah, he had me on salary, and I was working 5 o'clock in the afternoon until 4 o'clock in the morning, 6 nights a week, and it was killing me. And there's nothing to do between 5 and 9, and I ended up trying to open up my own facility in that hotel, and we got into some contract problems. I got a big fight with him over it, and I said I can't do this anymore, and I decided to make the leap into hypnosis. And about a week and a half after that fight, I had printed up 8x10s and used a Polaroid and a black and white photocopier and made these ads say "Master Hypnotist Anthony Coles." And the truth of the matter is, Kevin, I never hypnotized a single person before I walked up on stage for the very first time. Not a single soul. Yeah.
Now, where was the first one?
At the club that I managed.
Okay.
Yeah, so I hired myself for free, obviously, to do this free show, and I walked in, and I was expecting about 100 people to show up for my first show, because there was nobody there till 10 o'clock, 10:30 at night, but I said I'll do an 8 o'clock show. 550 people showed up for my very first show, and I'm pretty sure that over half of them were there to watch me fail.
Of course.
Right, but they showed up just the same, and then 20 minutes of induction later, I ended up working with about 12 people out of the 20 volunteers, and I did a show for about an hour, which was still a very coarse version of what I'm doing today. And I walked off stage, and I just knew this is what I was supposed to do. And I walked in the owner's office and said, "Thank you very much for the last 8 years. I'm giving you my 2 weeks' notice." And that was it.
And this is a conversation that I have with a lot of people. Is they will do everything. They will do all the planning. They will do all the studying. They will hire all the teachers. They will do everything that you're supposed to do it right. They'll print up the material. They'll make the website. They'll do everything except that first show.
Right.
That the idea of that first show and not having the safety net and having to make that jump terrifies them.
I did not literally, I swear to you, I did not sleep for 3 days before that first show. I was so exhausted when I walked off stage. But, I was horrified. Absolutely horrified. Yeah.
All right, so you do your first show.
Yes.
How do you grow?
Well, it's pretty funny because immediately after I quit, the word spread through the town that I was doing this show, and the owner of the competition that I was working for called me up and says, I don't have any business on Wednesday nights, so why don't you come in here and I'll give you $5 a head for everybody you draw in. I'm like, okay. And we started drawing immediately 1,000 people. Immediately we did, I think, probably 30 or 40 shows there over the course of the next little while there, once a week. And it was to the point where you couldn't get in. And then that market dried up very, very rapidly. We started going to different quadrants of the city. I got approached by a manager. He said, "Hey, I can book you across, the entire country." I'm like, well, "Okay, let's do that." And I stuck with him for a few years, and we did that. We toured Canada across 5 times, coast to coast, which was just hard. It was hard.
Now, what kind of touring were you doing at that point?
Well, when I first started off, we had I bought a Dodge Caravan, and we loaded it all up with. It was pretty funny because when I first started, I just had a sports bag with a bunch of CDs in it, and then we'd show up at the venue and say, "Oh, okay, this will work. Do you have a wireless microphone? Yeah, okay, this will work." And we'd do the show that way. And by the time I quit touring 10 years later, it was a 41-foot tour bus pulling a 28-foot trailer, generator, fiber optic backdrops, front end light system, a front end sound system, monitor rig, a video rig, about 4,000 feet of cable, dancers that opened up the show, and that's how it ended up the touring days. So
now we're going to talk more about how it ended up there, but let's talk about being on the road. I mean, I remember there was a time that I was touring, and what I was doing was I was doing colleges, nightclubs, comedy clubs.
Yep.
And I would be on the road 3 months. I'd get in the car in the middle of August, get out the middle of October, the middle of November sometime. Mm-hmm. And it was just nonstop. In 90 days, you're doing 50 shows at least.
I remember one time we did 31 shows in 31 days. Mm-hmm. It was absolutely just by the end of the time my throat was gone, I was just wiped out. But it was still well worth it. But I did never play the comedy club circuit ever.
I've always had fun in comedy clubs because people come there to laugh.
Right.
As opposed to those one night bar gigs.
Yep.
Where they're there because it's 75-cent PBR night and the bartender doesn't even get to keep the quarter.
Right.
Yeah. Oh God. All right. So those gigs.
Yes, and there were a lot of them. I remember one time I traveled 4.5 hours through the snow to get to a gig for 8 people. 8 people, and they didn't know what to expect and things like that. And I didn't actually even bring any sound system. We just sat down with the 8 people, hypnotized 3 people at the tables. We had a conversation for about 2 hours, making people do dumb things. And when I went back, they always booked in 4 sequences, so it was before Wednesdays. We had to go back to this one particular venue. So we drove back the next week, and there was 100 people, and then it was sold out, and it was sold out. And then the bigger venue called us up and said, "We'll give you more money. Come on over there." And that's how we established ourselves. But I'm sure there's a very similar story with you.
Oh God, yeah. There's always, I think it was Bill Hicks who coined the term the "I don't get it's" bars.
Yeah.
And there were always a bunch of those.
Oh yes.
And I remember being told you need 50 or 100 or 200 people in order to do a hypnosis show. And then all of a sudden you're touring, you find yourself in a place where there's, 8 people, and sure, you could cancel the show and lose the paycheck and lose the hotel room for the night and jack up your expenses.
Well, see, I put in my contract there had to be 100 people or you pay me.
Yeah.
So the owners actually, they worked hard at it, and we changed the contract after that 8-person gig. That was still very fresh. I think I've been doing it for about 3 months when we did that one. But you learn as you go, By the end of it, the contract actually read that I had to have frozen chocolate bars and fresh socks for everybody, in the rider.
But now we talked about this, and I'm glad you brought it up. Why frozen chocolate?
Because if I showed up at a venue and they advertised Tony Cools, which is not my name, is Anthony Cools, and they advertised X-rated hypnotist, which I'm not. I'm an R-rated hypnotist. An X-rated hypnotist has a hard time getting volunteers.
Yes.
Right. So
yes.
I always made sure it was very adult orientated. We had slogans like, for those easily offended, stay home, and things like that really, got the idea that it was going to be a dirty show, but nothing X-rated. So I'd go to a venue and I'd see Tony Cools, X-rated hypnotist, and I'd walk in there and I'd say, where's my frozen chocolate bars? And they say, well, what frozen chocolate bars? I said, in the rider. Well, what? We didn't read the rider. Well, obviously, pay me and I'll see you next week. And that was how it had to be, because if people did not read the rider, important stuff would be overlooked. Power requirements, billing, hotel lodging. We're not going to be. We wouldn't stay in a band house. It's not going to happen. I need a 4-star hotel for me and my crew. That's how it was. That a 4-star is going to be the Holiday Inn in their eyes, right?
Yeah. And when I think of, we started putting that in, especially when we toured colleges, was as bad as this sounds. The room had to have its own television, its own phone, and its own bathroom.
Yeah, exactly.
Otherwise, you would be in some dorm in the middle of nowhere.
Right, sharing a room with the band that's playing the next night.
Yeah,
right?
or like a sleep and stab where you're putting like the dresser up against the door, sleeping in the tub, and hoping throughout the night.
I have a video of us staying at a band house. The one time we did end up staying at a band house, we were playing Monopoly, and mice were running around the floor. I'm like, I can't stay here. There's not going to happen, right? No way. You go out on tour and come back with a case of the Hontas.
So you start off. You've got a bag of CDs and a microphone.
Yes.
You grow it to the point where it's a production show.
Yes.
Which 99 out of 100 people are going to go, well, why are you wasting that energy?
Right.
And to the 1% who get it, they get it. But what made you jump and go, this show can look better?
It's funny because it didn't happen in one lot. It happened very slowly over a long period of time. I was in a venue one time, and the sound system was we were using the dance floor, so they didn't have a lot of front end. I'm like, it'd sure be nice to have a little bit of front end sound. A couple small speakers wouldn't be a big deal. So get a couple small speakers and an amplifier and set that up. Well, this venue has got great great front end sound system, but they don't have any monitors. Well, maybe we should add a couple monitors in. Well, a couple monitors. I wonder. Well, it sure sound good is we could buy amp this and put a subwoofer underneath it, give it a little bit. That'd be a good idea. Well, what we should do is maybe get a couple of trees of lights that we could just set up in the audience. And that's a good. Well, a backdrop would sure look professional. And what would be great is instead of hiring roadies, how about we hire a couple of dancers and make them haul the gear. That's a good idea. It just step by step by step. And we outgrew that caravan, I think, in about 4 months. And the suspension was gone by the time we outgrew it into our first bus, which is a 1957 MCI. I bought it with 3.5 million miles on it, and I put another 100,000 on it before we got rid of that one. Then we went to a 71 MCI. That one had 1.2 million on it when I bought it. Put another 800,000 on that one, and then we bought the 85 96A3, and then we converted that one over. And I still have that bus. It's a beautiful bus.
And I mean, when you're talking 100,000 miles, that was what? 2 years max?
Yeah,
year?
If that. We literally crossed Canada. We'd be in that bus 12 hours a day. How many times we drove down to Mississippi in that thing? That's 45 hours from Canada. That's a heck of a journey. Yeah.
But I mean, you grew it because it needed to be done.
It needed to go to the next level. If you don't advance the show, you will stay at the same level. When people come in and they see the show and they see, you got a fantastic backdrop in production, they go, okay, this is a real show, as opposed to some guy showing up with a sports bag and a bunch of CDs and saying, what do you got in here? You got a wireless mic? That'll work.
And the reason I kind of wanted to frame it like this, even before we go into anything else, is so you've put together all of this production.
Yes. Even streamer launchers and flamethrowers and all that. Oh, yeah, we had it all.
you get to the Paris.
Yes.
And where is your first room in the Paris?
The Paris was a travel and tourism lobby, which was a small room at the back of the casino. It had check-in desks along one side of it. It had a 15-foot opening with no doors, and that was it. That was the entire room. And I happened to be in the right place at the right time to get that. And you know how hard it is to get a room here. It's impossible. You know, you hear these hypnotists discussing about paying to play. Well, you know, if it was that easy, there'd be a lot more acts here, that's for sure.
Well, the one thing I've gone off on that is each casino is supposed to make at least $1 million a day.
Yeah.
Is what their target is. And I think, you know, pulling up the numbers, a slot machine is supposed to bring in a few $1,000s a day.
Mm-hmm.
So when people talk about, oh, yeah, Vegas just wants $150,000 from you and you can open tomorrow.
Yeah.
They're going to make more than that putting 3 slot machines somewhere.
Right.
Your $150,000 means nothing to them.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's not even an hour and a half of the casino's time.
No, what they're looking for is they're looking for somebody that will draw people to the venue. That's what they want. You know, even more than rent, I think. You know, I think rent just keeps you honest.
But when you go there, you're ready at that point. And by ready, I'm not even talking about anything to do with hypnosis per se, but you're ready to deliver a show. You're ready to deliver a show with the production value, with the name behind it, with the quality behind it, so that you can move into what anybody else would look at and go, well, I can't do a show here. And you look at your crew and go, unload the trailer.
This is perfect.
Mm-hmm.
This is absolutely perfect. You know, to have a room period on the Strip is, you know, sought after by everybody, I think. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter where you are in the casino, as long as you're in that casino. Once the people are there, they'll find you. They've bought the ticket already. They're going to find you. You know, so I'm still in that little room, but the check-in desks are gone, and we have doors now, and we have got a paint job, and we got a legitimate stage with a handicap lift, and like the whole 9 yards. It's a bona fide theater. It took 9 years to transition to that, and actually we're in the process right now putting in nice theater seating. It'll be the final step.
And that's the thing too, is you're at the top of the game, and you're still working at improving.
Always.
Why?
You can't plateau. You cannot plateau. If you plateau, you might as well just hang it up. I mean, why not strive for the next step? You always have to do that. Look forward. Always.
Now, before we even talk about material, let me just bring this up. What is obscene to you?
I like to picture the show this way. If you watch the video with the sound off and you're bored, that's really good. If you turn the sound up and you allow your imagination to take over and it's filthy, it's perfect.
Because here's the thing that I've told people about your show time and time again. Because people go, oh my God, Anthony's so dirty. But you're not.
No.
And by that I mean anybody who volunteers for your show, they know exactly what they're getting into. You don't hide anything. You don't really surprise anybody with anything they're going to do up there.
Right. It's starting at the marketing level.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, starting from the marketing level, your stage assistant, your sound girl.
How the hostesses are dressed.
Yep. Every step of the way.
Yes.
And I'm sure there's still at least one person a month who walks out and goes, oh my God, I can't believe he's, you know, but that's always going to happen.
Always going to happen.
But overall, I've always said this. And we'll use the amazing Jonathan as an example, who swears in his show a lot.
Yes.
I never considered Jonathan to be a blue act.
No.
Because that was always just Jonathan's personality.
Right.
And it was honest.
And he's using it in context.
Mm-hmm.
He's not just saying it for the sake of saying it. You're using it in context. You know, it's proper use of a foul word.
And that I always thought was what made the difference. Is if you have to use something, if you have to use a word just to get a reaction, and you counting that on that word to get the reaction as opposed to the material behind it, then I think you're blue and I think you're obscene.
Yes.
If it's your natural personality, people will respond to it.
Yes.
I've always said that the key is being sincere. The audience knows when they're being lied to.
Absolutely.
And this is going to bring us now into talking about material, into talking about something we've talked to over and over and over.
With Mark Savard as well.
Yes. Oh, God, yes. And that is people who just steal material.
Yes, blatantly. Word for word. Even Ravine had that happen to him up in Canada. He's got, a hypnotist out there named Raven that's, doing his act word for word. And it's not fooling the audience for a second. And he's going to stay at the level that he's at, and that's it, And only people that don't know the great Ravine, would understand that, oh, my gosh, that's his show. And comedians do it too, but they get shunned very, very rapidly for doing it.
Comedy clubs police themselves.
Yes.
Variety arts don't.
Yes.
And we don't have the strength of venue to go, oh, if you're doing this person's material, we're not booking you.
Right.
Supposedly. And the reason I say supposedly is because it's just what you said. If somebody tries to do your show, and we brought up Mark, there is, and we just had lunch, the three of us, and Mark was telling us about a guy who is billing himself by saying he's seen Mark's show 20 times and will do Mark's exact show.
That used his exact same promo.
Yes.
I cut out his head and switched out the head. I couldn't believe that.
But those guys aren't really working. And I've always believed this. When you're cloning something, you don't feel fresh, you don't feel new, you don't feel unique, and you're not memorable.
Have you ever seen Multiplicity, the movie?
Yes.
Okay, the clone of the clone of the clone of the clone. That's exactly what's going on with the hypnosis community. Exactly what's going on. This guy, I'll say, for example, the chair humping, which has been a staple for my show since my very first show, May 7th, 1994. I had that in my show. And I've got all these other guys doing it now. And I'm seeing it done really poorly. And I think the audience sees, oh, Anthony does that, and he does it better.
Well, and even if the audience has never seen you, there is still that moment where a clone of a clone will do it in a weak way. They won't have the presentation around it. They won't have the real jokes around it. Mm-hmm. They'll do a version, or they'll do your joke, but they won't understand where the humor is.
Right.
And I watched somebody do a monologue that they were obviously handed, and they were reciting, but they didn't understand the jokes, the humor, and they got no laughs off of things that the originator would have gotten a standing ovation for.
Clone of a clone of a clone. Exactly. Exactly. No, we're definitely on the same page for that.
But, and I'll say this too, even before you got here to Vegas, were people coming to you to see a hypnotist, or were they coming to see Anthony Cools?
They were coming to see Anthony Cools.
And what's the difference?
I'm really funny and I'm really good.
And you're memorable. I remember seeing you in I lived in New Orleans, and this would have been 13 years ago.
Okay.
And I remember seeing you down at the
Grand Casino in Gulfport.
Yep, down in Gulfport, and it was unique. It wasn't what you saw every third person doing.
Well, that was the tricky market down there, and there's 125,000 people that live down in Gulfport, Biloxi, and I was the only show that lasted down there. I outlasted Cirque du Soleil, Blue Man Group, Lord of the Dance, and a slew of others combined, because I did a different show every night, and I delivered it with that. I was told quirkish charm, and the locals would come out 5 nights a week and see 5 different shows.
And when we're talking about that quirkish charm, it's you. They're not paying to see a hypnosis show. They're paying to see Anthony. And one way I've described your personality is the Dean Martin of hypnosis.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah,
I like that.
In a lot of ways.
Yeah.
You're having fun. You're having fun with your girls. You're having fun with the participants. You're enjoying and sliding through that, kind of in the way that I remember watching Dean Martin do a lot of that. And
it's funny you say that, because Dean Martin didn't drink.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it was it was always Capelli's
water.
apple juice. Yep.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And people think I'm drinking up on stage, and I'm not. I'm just drinking Diet Pepsi. But they think that I'm out there drinking with them. I used to on the road, and I realized I'm much funnier sober than I am, buzzed up there.
and there are so many people who also don't get that.
Yes.
Is the moment you walk on stage, and I don't care what career it is, you've now punched your clock.
Yes.
You're there to work. And yeah, you can have fun, but you owe the audience everything you've got. And going up there drunk doesn't always give the audience that.
Absolutely. That's another evolution of the show, though, too. You learn. You learn. You go on. You learn. Coming back from a DJ background, I'd always have a couple of drinks when I was DJing. People couldn't tell any difference. Remember one time New Year's Eve, I yelled out, "Are you ready to?" and played a song. They're like, "Oh yeah, he's buzzed."
Or he brought Bobcat Goldthwait in tonight.
Exactly. There were good times on the road, though. It was an education that helped me with my career now, which is great.
But that also gave you the ability to develop your stage personality even before you added hypnosis to it.
Absolutely. Yeah, the DJing, I got really comfortable with a microphone and really comfortable with an audience in front of me. And that definitely helped an awful lot, and learning to play instruments. I actually played, church in the church choir, play guitar and things like that. All just helping me get in front of an audience and getting comfortable,
And this is something that I've tried to tell so many people, especially in the variety arts. Go do 5 minutes of stand-up.
Oh, yeah.
Go work the open mics.
Yeah.
Get comfortable not relying on your art. Learn why people respond to you. Learn why they like you. That's why they're coming.
Do you ever do stand-up?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I did. I did it once, 5 minutes, the longest 8 hours of my life.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah.
And one of my buddies gave me the best advice about that first 5 minutes. He said, what you think is the bad news is you're going to die.
Yeah, exactly.
The good news, you will, but you're never going to die that badly ever again.
Yeah.
You get that first one out, and it all gets easier.
Yep.
But when you develop that personality, and how were you able to go, because I'm sure you had seen a few different hypnotists.
No, not before my first show. I saw one other guy, Terry Stokes, who used to perform at the fairs, but that was a whole different show altogether then, too. He was definitely an inspiration as well. Very nice man.
Oh, yeah. Very nice. And one of my mentors, hands down. One of the guys who really helped guide me here in town.
There you go.
Very giving to a lot of people. But what made you go, I'm going to be different than anything out there?
Well, I wanted to bring hypnosis to the new century. I mean, Ravine did it, in a 60s way with, the goatee and the studded tuxedos and the very big breathe in, and that was the technology that was out there, back in the 50s and the 60s. Terry brought it to the level of the 70s and the 80s, I think. He stepped it up to the next level, but nobody that was touring at that point in time brought it up to, the 1990s, and that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to bring it to the next level. I
really would say that there was almost a pause from the 80s through the year 2000.
Yeah, I don't know. There was a couple of guys doing it, but they were doing, still the tuxedos and the goatees, I mean...
Or they were doing these really stereotypical bad comedy acts with it. Yeah. And it didn't seem like they were advancing at all.
Exactly.
So what gave you that inspiration? What was going to be the difference?
I just knew I wanted to create my own niche. There had to be my own niche. I didn't want to do what everybody else is doing. I didn't want to do Terry's show because Terry was doing Terry's show. So no, it had to be something completely different. And then that's why I decided to go the R-rated route right off the get-go. Nobody was doing it back then. They would test the waters. They dip their toe into it, but I just dove in the pool completely.
And one of the places that I took inspiration from, there was a wrestling company called ECW, and they were the smallest of the national wrestling companies. And he knew he couldn't compete with the big guys as far as pyro or this or that. But what he said was, I was watching pro wrestling. At the time, hair metal was big. And then Nirvana came on the scene and destroyed hair metal. He said, I didn't want to be hair metal now. I wanted to be Nirvana. I wanted to go, how do we take this in a direction that's new and different that people aren't doing?
Right.
And I think that's the big moment for any performer is Harry Anderson knew that I was a very big fan of his when I met him in New Orleans.
Well, stalker's a better word, but anyways.
Potato,
okay.
whatever.
Right.
Hey, if you're willing to show up with your own knee pads and mouthwash, whatever.
Go for it.
Exactly. But Harry's advice to me, and he really, really did some great things for me. But the thing he told me was never, ever be the next anyone. Go out there and be the first you.
Right. I got advice from Ravine once. Ever tell you this story?
Mm-mm.
So I'm doing the show for about 2.5 months, and Ravine comes to town, and I'd never seen his show because he stopped touring for a little while down there. So I grabbed my entire crew, probably about 12 people, bought tickets, and we went and saw a show. 3 hours long. The first hour of it was some magic tricks, and then his induction was almost 40 minutes long. He started with like literally 300 or 400 people on stage, and I was like, okay, well that's pretty cool. But that's definitely not what I'm doing at all. But I wanted to meet him afterwards, so I stuck around and I waited for about 3 hours through the meet and greet just to finally meet the man. And I went up to him and I said, Mr. Ravine, I just want to let you know you've been a huge inspiration in my life, and I'm actually doing a hypnosis show now. He says, oh, really? I says, yeah, any advice you give me? He says, son, if you ever want to make any real money at this game, don't use the F word. And at that point in time, my entire 12 people busted a gut laughing, and I'm chewing on my tongue, trying really, really hard not to, to break out in front of my mentor here. So I continued on doing my own thing. I'm dropping F-bombs every chance I had. And then I met him again in 2003 because he became Lance Burton's manager.
Yes.
And very, very nice man. And Jonathan, amazing Jonathan, says, come on, a whole bunch of us are going to go out and eat. And I said, okay, so we're going to go out there. So we went there, and there was Penn and Teller and Jonathan and Lance, all these headliners there. And I didn't get starstruck by anybody. But at the end of the table, there was Peter Ravine. And, of course, the one empty chair was across from Peter Ravine. So I sat down, and I got tongue-tied. Just, wow, that's Peter Ravine in front of me. And I asked him again, I said, yes, sir, I have to tell you this. Back in 1994, I just started doing this. I met you in Calgary. He says, oh, yes, we played a lot of shows there. I said, yeah. I says, and I waited for you for about 3 hours to get meet and greet, and I asked you for advice, and you said, whatever you do, don't use the F word. He goes, yes, good advice. And then I said, I have to tell you, sir, I'm playing Stardust right now. I'm getting paid, and I use the F word lots. And he sort of stroked his goatee for a second, and he looked at me and says, son, do people pay to see your show? I says, yeah, they do. He says, and the casino, do they pay you to perform? I says, yes. He says, well, then go ahead and use the F word. Great moment. God rest his soul.
Yes.
Yep.
In many ways, he opened a lot of doors for everybody in this field.
He was the father of modern hypnosis. He really is. He's the guy that brought it to the, from the mesmer days.
We're going to be back in 2 minutes. William Arundel is going to be joining us from New Orleans. We'll be back in just a little bit with Anthony Cools. Hello, Las Vegas from Hypnosis Unleashed. All Las Vegas locals get half off every night at the show, Tuesday through Sunday, 8 p.m. Come and join us for Las Vegas's wildest hypnosis show. Watch your friends get turned into rock stars, watch them do the craziest things, or come and be hypnotized yourself. This show has won all the awards here in Las Vegas, and we want to show you why. Come join us every Tuesday through Sunday night. VegasHypnosisShow.com for more details. That's VegasHypnosisShow.com.
Hey, it's Roxy from the 702 Rock Show, right here at VegasAllNetRadio.com. Listen to my show every Friday, 4 to 5 p.m. to hear about local artists, musicians, fashion designers, and more, right here in Las Vegas. So tune in every Friday, 4 to 5 p.m. to hear me, Michelle Roxy Davis, right here at VANR on the 702 Rock Show.
Monday Mayhem is back at Gene Woods Racing Experience Go-Kart Track. The stakes are higher than ever, and the winner takes all. If you've got what it takes, the winner will get to race a real Thunder Roadster at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway in an actual race. So be there every Monday. First race starts at 7. Come early to register. We are located at 121 East Sunset Road at the Sports Center, across from McCarran Airport. For more information, call us at 702-270-8100. That's 702-270-8100. You can visit us on Facebook, or you can go to our website at racingexperiencelv.com. Once you race here, you won't go anywhere else. Monday Mayhem is back.
Welcome back to Live Unleashed. Thank you so much for joining me. As always, you can email me anytime at info@vegashypnosisshow.com. That's info@vegashypnosisshow.com. We're joined by Anthony Cools, and now my co-host should be here. Please welcome William Arundel. Will, thanks for joining us.
Hey, it's great to be here. It's great to be here. And Anthony, it's good to talk to you again. We met briefly last time I was in Vegas.
Absolutely,
What I
Will.
wanted to ask you is, what was it like for you growing up? What is it, I want to get down a little bit to what made you you. So what was it like to be a little Anthony Cools?
Well, I was the class clown, without a shadow of a doubt about that. I started my first business when I was 12 years old doing mobile DJ work, and so I didn't have a traditional upbringing. I didn't play sports. When everybody was going to high school dances and things like that, I was the one DJing them. So it was I think I had a very entrepreneurial spirit at a very young age.
Do you think that was already inherent in your family?
I remember my father coming home when I was about 10 years old, and he'd been working 12 hours managing a Safeway store, and he plopped down on the couch, and Mom brought him a cold compress to put on his forehead because he had a wicked headache. And I went over to him. I said, "Hi, Dad." And he looked at me and he said, "Don't ever work for somebody else." And, here I am at 47. I still remember that conversation like it was yesterday.
That was also kind of in mind. My dad drove trains for a living.
Yeah.
So, his train set was the 1-to-1 gauge. And what he always said was, if you could get paid to do something you love, you win.
Exactly. Yeah. But which most people, unfortunately, don't do that, I don't think. But I got lucky.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a little more than luck. I think when you're willing to go out on stage, never having hypnotized anyone, and kind of take that risk. Was it things like that made you, with your dad, that made you a risk taker, or do you think it's just something that you've always been?
I think that I live by 12 different rules, and one of the rules that really sticks with me is you need to be prepared to put your head down on a chopping block and have it cut off. And I've started many, many businesses, some of them successful, some of them not successful, but I never dwell on the past of the things that didn't work out. I always just move on and keep things going in a forward direction. If you don't take the risk, you'll never get the reward. Simple as that. And if your head does get chopped off, you got to be able to shrug it off and go, okay, what's next?
And we've talked about that before, of people just having this unreal expectation about what failure is going to do to them.
Exactly. No, you got to take the chance. You got to take the chance. I mean, I've started so many businesses that have failed miserably, and I have no regrets about any of them at all, because I've started many successful ones too. About to start another one now. Mm-hmm. Yes.
And did you develop these rules all at once, or did they develop over time from mistakes you'd made or things that you learned?
Well, the biggest lesson you can learn is learn from your mistakes. And like I said, opening a bar at the Plaza Casino because they've done a $40 million renovation, and having a dueling piano with an indoor mini golf course, and calling it the Swingers Club, and everybody said, "Oh my gosh, it's going to be so amazing and so good." But it failed. It failed really hard, and it fell really flat on its butt. And did I learn something? Absolutely. I sold that liquor license, and I'll never get in the bar business ever again.
But longevity, I mean, you've been at the Paris for 9 years. That rarely happens anywhere, let alone a town like this.
Well, can I tell you, can I brag about this for a second?
Yes, please.
Longest running hypnosis show in Las Vegas history
Yes.
and on the planet. So that's a pretty big feather in my cap.
And it doesn't happen by accident, though. You've treaded a lot of waters. What's the one or two things that you would say that's kept you there and in that position?
First thing I was able to do, because when I first got down here at the Stardust, I got paid, so I didn't have to worry about 4-walling or 3-walling or anything like that. And I saw the other acts struggling. I remember talking to Terry when he was playing down at the Bourbon Street, and Terry said, "How's things going up there?" I said, "Pretty good." He says, "Who's doing your marketing?" I'm like, "I don't know." He said, "What do you mean you don't know?" "I don't know." He says, "You're getting paid?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm getting paid." And that was unheard of back in 2003. Nobody was getting paid. But I learned by seeing how other people screwed up. And the first thing I did was I opened up the Paris Casino as I eliminated the middleman. I eliminated the marketing department. I eliminated the advertising company. I eliminated the mobile billboard company by creating them all myself. For example, let me give you a good tip that I would tell anybody to do. If you wanted to rent a cab topper, one cab topper per month is I think it was like $450 back then for one cab topper. So if you're talking 100, you're talking $45,000 a month for advertising for 100 cab toppers, and that doesn't even get you a decent dent. At the time, a Scion XB brand new, zero down. A payment was $305 a month. So I went out and I bought 3 Scion XBs. And then I went to a wrapping company. I said, how much is it going to cost to wrap a Scion? They said $5,000 to wrap a Scion back then. And I said, well, what's the printer cost? And they said $20,000. I said, I'm just going to buy the printer instead. So I started up my own wrap company, and I wrapped 3 Scion XBs up, and I just gave them to my staff. My staff were like, well, what's the catch? I'm like, there's no catch. Just drive this car. They're like, what do you mean? I'm giving you this car. As long as you work for me, you can have this car. What? It's a brand new car. Keep it. And they thought I was a god because I just give them a brand new car. But in the truth of the matter, I was just doing smart marketing and paying less money than a cab topper. I was letting these people drive around in fully wrapped cars, which gave the show credibility right off the get-go. And it was way cheaper. And I still have the print company, and I'm still doing my own printing and my still own wrapping. Eliminate the middleman.
But also, all right, so you kind of report to the entertainment director.
Yes.
But you've got a reputation with him, but that's not based just on your professionalism. There's also a personal there too at this point.
All the directors I've had a personal relationship with. Back in 2003, it was a guy named Drew Stroza, who's now over the MGM, and Chris Nelson, Michael Weaver. These guys were all instrumental in getting me started over there. And then when Harris came over, they went through a couple of different guys. But now I got a guy named Brian Mercis, and the guy's fantastic. He's on my team, which is great.
See, I've always believed that if you can get along with those people, if you reach out, if you can really learn what they need from you, sometimes that's as instrumental as anything else. I've watched so many people burn so many good deals by having an attitude
Chris
problem.
Angel. Excuse me. Sorry, I had something stuck in my throat there. That's important too. But I'll tell you, in all honesty, from 2003 to 2005 to probably 2009. When it was still run by Caesars Entertainment pre-Harrah's buyout, I'll bet you I saw an executive walk through my theater maybe once in that entire time period, 4 years. Nobody ever came through. I flew underneath the radar. I just came in, did my thing. I wasn't, I need to have, frozen chocolate bars and all that. I just flew in under the radar, which is great.
But you didn't have that prima donna attitude. And Will, you and I have talked about that a lot too, is that, not having the prima donna attitude and being able to work well with others.
Yeah, and doing PR, that's important too. You got to keep your face out there. I mean, I'd go to the opening of a letter if they invited me, but you got to do that stuff. You have to do it, It's important to keep your face out there.
I had an experience where when I was in my teens, I watched somebody I knew. He was in a band, and he was having a meeting with a guy from Capitol Records. And I watched the moment where he was my friend was being a little too overblown, and I watched the Capitol A&R guy literally sit back in his chair and fold his arms. I watched the moment he lost the record deal by just having too big a head.
Yeah, you can't do that.
It's such an important thing.
When you get up in the morning and you stick your head in the toilet bowl and smell what came out the night before, and it smells like roses, then you can have an ego. But until that day happens, no, you can't. You just got a cool job. That's how I look at it.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question. Out of those 12 rules, what are the 3 do you think that are most important maybe for new people starting out, besides the one which be willing to put your head on the chopping block?
Well, you know what? You're going to have to read my book to find out my rules. As simple as that.
You have a book.
I'm writing a book. Yes, I am. And
awesome.
I'm not going to give away much more than that because I do want people to go out and run out and buy the book. But there are 12 killer rules.
No problem.
No
problem.
I'm laughing really hard right now, Will. I just want to let you know that. I just slammed the door on you bad.
No, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that.
You want all my secrets, and I'm just going to give you 10% of them because the other 90% you're going to have to figure out. When I retire, this book's going to come out, and it's going to expose all the little tricks of the trade.
Well, all right. We're not even talking hypnosis here, though.
Yes.
I'm just saying this. So Johnny wants to stop working in the cubicle. Mm-hmm. He wants to step out and start living his dream. So he's decided that he's willing to put his head out on the chopping block. He's gonna make that jump. What would you say is one other piece of advice that you've learned just for any business?
I've probably told 100 hypnotists this over the many years, and you probably have done the same thing. Be original. find your own niche. Don't learn from somebody else's mistakes. You got to go out there and find your own tune, and will you flop around? Absolutely, you will flop around. Will you find the route eventually? Yes, you will, but you got to find your own thing,
And there's always the one or two mistakes that you have to make on your own.
Oh, yeah.
Because if you don't, you're not going to understand.
Absolutely. Okay, one of the other rules is definitely learn from your mistakes. But anyways, I'm not going to... you got to be original. I mean, if you were ripping off somebody else's material or you're doing their show, people will see through that. And you're like, you'll never be you up on stage. You'll never be successful.
And just to harp on this topic for a second. So somebody's going to come back and go, well, it's all in this book or that book. And yeah, a lot of the basis of a suggestion of on the count of three, you will,
right,
is findable out there.
Oh, yeah.
But it's how you present it.
Right. It's got to be you. It's got to be you doing the show.
There is a big difference.
Yeah.
There's a big difference between Jimmy Fallon hosting an award show, Billy Crystal, Chris Rock, or David Letterman.
Or Ellen DeGeneres, yes.
It all feels like a different show.
Because she's female, yes.
And that totally makes it different.
Yeah.
Now, do you write your material basically by just improving on stage, or how is it that you write your material then? Because if we're talking about the hardest part, what I think the hardest part of a show is getting that original material.
It definitely is.
How do you do it?
It's so funny how I used to do it is I'd go and sit with the bar staff after a show, and I'd have drinks with them, and I'd get to be friends with them and, find out what parts of the show they liked and what parts they didn't like. And guaranteed, one of them would say, well, why don't you hypnotize me? So I would. And then I'd have all the bar staff saying, oh, make him do this. 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 That's how Ring of Fire came to be. That's how that was written, is afterwards. What you should do is, make his butthole burn. He says, okay, well, I'll do that. So then, my staff said, we need some music. I'm like, well, it has to be Johnny Cash's Ring of Fire. And that's how that was born. It was sitting around with other people. I would recommend going to house parties and hypnotizing a couple of people at house parties. And, of course, you got to stay sober for it. When you're in somebody else's mind, you got to stay responsible. But, I'd always that's how I would practice, because you can't practice during a show. You can't practice anywhere else. So I'd sit at the bar with the staff after the show.
My favorite thing about comedy open mic nights wasn't doing the open mic night. It was hanging out with everybody after and talking with the comedians and just sitting around and generating material that way.
Exactly, yeah. I'm at the point now where I don't have to generate any more material. I got about 8 hours of it, and I just pick and choose, write the shows on the fly from that point in time on.
And the last thing I want to touch on, because we do have to start wrapping the show up, but 20 years in the performing field.
Yes.
20 years of hypnotizing people and of never looking back.
Yep.
And if anybody needs to understand what being creative, what being original, and what really putting the business side of things first equals, a 20-year career that also features the longest-running hypnosis show on the planet.
Kevin, thank you so much for having me, man. I really appreciate it. You're good people. You and Mark are both good people.
It's my pleasure. And we don't even have time to talk about my favorite topic that we've all talked about, is how we don't have to view each other as competition. We can all help each other grow.
Absolutely.
Your website?
AnthonyCools.com, Facebook Anthony Cools, Instagram Anthony Cools, and Twitter at HypnoCools, because some other jerk off took to Anthony Cools.
And of course, if you want to get a hold of Will, licensed social worker, amazing therapist, helpneworleans.com. Will, thank you for joining us. And you can always hit VegasHypnosisShow.com. Drop me an email. We'll talk to you next week.